For anyone that may not be familiar with you and your work, could you brief introduction talking about what you specialize in, how you help consultants and subject matter experts?
Sure, Seth. Thanks for the opportunity. It's great to talk to you. I'm a former management consultant. I started my strategic planning consulting business in Toronto in 2009. I ran it for about 10 years. We focused mainly, 80% of our business was helping research commercialization departments at universities launch companies within that environment. So for scientists and researchers who had ideas, we would go in and help them either launch those companies into startups or license their technology to larger companies. So 80% of our business was that. 20% of our business came from small and medium-sized businesses, business planning, strategic planning, services, and so on. But of late, the last 3 or 4 years, I've been working exclusively with management consulting firms to help them grow their pipeline, their sales pipeline, because as a consulting founder myself, one of the biggest problems that I faced is that I didn't have a cooking clue of how to land my next client. I really struggled with it in the early days. And what I've found is that this is very typical with consultants. They're very good at their own domain. They're experts at their own domain, but they pay very little attention to learning sales and marketing so that they can build a pipeline and actively grow their business. So that's what I help consultants do these days. I work both with independent consultants and owners of small firms.
Okay. I think that's such a unique area because you see this on LinkedIn. You see this in a lot of the communities that have started to come out with independent consultants and the rise of fractional work in the last couple of years, where they have this idea that because they're so good at what they do, that is the value proposition. They are the subject matter experts, so that should sell itself, especially for people that are not inclined towards sales or have a negative viewpoint of sales. How do you develop that value proposition so that you can articulate it to potential clients and actually start to have a strong engagement?
Well, this is a very important topic. And like you said, people think that their services will sell themselves. I'll tell you something very unique about consultants, and you may identify with this as well. Consultants are highly analytical because, their biggest the biggest strengths are analytical skills. They're brought in to solve problems. They're natural problem solvers, and they like solving problems. So these kinds of people, including myself, are highly analytical, right? And because of that, what happens is when they start their own businesses and they're expected to communicate what they do and how they help their clients, because of this analytical ability, and this is all based on my experience, of course, their messaging becomes very highly muddled. They don't know what they're offering to whom, and they end up creating a message that's highly complicated and confuses the market, right? So that's something that I've noticed with consultants, and it's kind of unique to our world.
I can definitely relate to that for sure. When I first started out, it was like,
100%.
Oh yeah, I know what I do, but I don't know how to actually convey that to somebody so that it sounds like there's something behind it.
And here's the other thing about consultants, like even marketing consultants. Like I see myself now as a marketing consultant, and often, it's very hard to use your own knowledge on the subject on your own business. It's easy to give advice, but using that same advice for your own business is hard because we have biases in our heads, we have fears, and so on and so forth. It's a unique situation. But going back to your question about building a value proposition, I see it as a firstly a mindset shift. A lot of service providers think that they provide services, and that's what they do. You provide services because, and you're a service provider and you provide services. But you know, clients don't buy services; they buy outcomes. They hire you because they have a problem and they want a specific outcome. So the first thing a consultant founder needs to do is to see themselves not as a service provider, but as an outcome provider. I like to think of myself as someone that brings results to clients and delivers results to clients. I'm always thinking about what outcome does this client want and how can I provide that outcome. So once you start thinking that way, then your value proposition starts to lend itself some shape, because your value proposition starts with the result that you deliver to the client. And then of course there's other elements to the value proposition, which is how long it takes. The quicker you complete, the quicker you deliver the engagement, the higher your perceived value is. And then another part of your value proposition is how much effort the client will need to take in order to for them to get that result. If you can figure out a way where the client puts in minimum effort, then your value increases in the client's eyes. And finally, another piece of the value proposition is perceived likelihood of success, right? Which is the client needs to know if they hire you, how likely they are to succeed, and that you can increase the perceived likelihood of success through case studies and testimonials and referrals and so on. So it's outcome, it's perceived value of perceived likelihood of success, it's how long the engagement would take, and there's one final thing which I said, but I can't remember right now. It's the effort, how long how much effort the client would needs to take. So this is a model. If you've heard of Alex Hormozy, he wrote a book called $100 Million Offers. And for anyone listening to this, if you can pick up that book and really understand the framework and how value is created, it will do your business a whole world of good.
Absolutely. I think you touched on so many great points there, but what sticks out to me the most is the idea of you're not selling a service. You're selling a solution to a problem. The way that you connect with them, being able to illuminate what that problem is and articulate it in a way that they're confident in your abilities to understand it, and to your point, to be successful in addressing it. And
Absolutely.
it's critical.
Yeah, and when you articulate the problem really well, right? When you articulate, when you truly understand what the client is going through, and you're able to articulate that back to the client better than the client can articulate it themselves, then the client naturally will see you as an authority. And once they understand that you fully get the problem, you fully understand it, they'll automatically start to assume that you have the solution as well. You see, it happens a lot with, for example, you go to a doctor and the doctor is able to truly understand your symptoms, and they're able to kind of say, okay, you know what is, let's say if you go to if you have a bad backache and you go to a physiotherapist or a doctor that deals with that, if they're able to kind of know what the symptoms are, and they ask you questions that lead you to believe that yes, you know what, this doctor knows exactly what he's talking about. When I bend this way, it hurts. I've been driving in a particular position, and he knows that. He's asking me questions around that. So when the doctor is able to articulate the problem really well, you start to assume that this person knows what he's talking about, and I'll just go with him. and that's natural. That's a bit of a, it's part of our human psychology, right? When we really when we feel that the person in front of us gets us, we're naturally inclined to to trust them more. And when
Hmm.
trust is built, that's the that's the bridge to hiring that individual, or kind of becoming closer to that individual, and taking that person's advice for the long term.
I think that's a great point. It's something I actually have a lot of interest in myself, in my own work and work that I do with others, especially in sales, is the psychology behind it, and that idea of being able to listen to your client and listen to understand, not to respond. So often you get in that kind of dialogue, and all you want to do is spit out how much you know about how to fix whatever they're saying.
100%. A very interesting thing about having a sales conversation is that a lot of people think that having a sales conversation means that you need to do all the talking. But like you
Yeah.
said, you need to listen and absorb the information. And what I've realized is that in a lot of in sales conversations, people want to talk.
Hmm.
The client wants to, the prospect wants to talk because they want to, share with you what they're going through, and your job is not only to listen but ask the right questions so that you can direct that conversation and go deeper, and then truly uncover what's going on, and truly uncover the problem, so that the client also knows that, what, uh, this is exactly what I'm going through, and this conversation really helped me. So a
Hmm.
sales conversation is not just about um, converting that client into a paid customer. It's more of discovering real needs, and discovering and uncovering problems, true problems that that person may be facing, so that there is an insight, that individual gets an insight, and that conversation itself becomes valuable. So that's the purpose of that conversation, and it's not a sales conversation, but it's more of a discovery, if you will.
Well, I think that misconception of that it's sales, that means I'm trying to convince or persuade somebody to do something they don't want to do. Sales is helping them feel comfortable. It's proving to them that you understand the issue that they're facing and that you have the expertise to deal with it. And you're right. It is asking the right questions so that they can actually talk more, so that they can give you more information. Because, especially as a consultant, you have to understand the problem. You have to understand what they're expecting. Otherwise, you can't deliver on that. You can't provide a good experience for them. So, listening to what they have to say, understanding it, using things like labels to make to and getting that affirmation from them to make sure that you're going down the right path. It makes them feel heard. It makes them feel more comfortable. They let their guard down. Now they start to like you because you were listening. They feel heard, and you're right. It will start to build that trust and build more of a relationship there that gets away from just the transactional part of the conversation.
Yes, I think you nailed it. And in what you said in the beginning, sales is helping, right? Sales is not, for me at least, the way I look at it is that I'm there to help someone understand at a deeper level what they're really going through, and to make some kind of a decision as to what they want to do, right? And here's the thing: like when you look at, when you take the pressure off yourself, and when having a conversation with a prospect, it becomes a very enjoyable process. I really enjoy the process of discovery and having a conversation with a
Mhm.
client, because I have no expectations of converting them into a prospect. It's just a conversation to understand whether or not um, you know this person has a problem that I'll be able to help solve, and if yes, then at that point, with the client, with that prospect's permission, we can go into ways that I can help, right?
Yeah.
But if there is no major problem, then there's no offer made at all at the end of that conversation. right? And then when you kind of learn more about sales, and you kind of get some advanced skills, you can really go deeper by asking the right questions. And that it becomes like a a mystery, right? Really uncovering and really finding out what truly drives this individual, and what's truly stopping this individual from moving forward. So it's really enjoyable. Again, like consultants who are analytical, and most of them are, would really
Mm-hmm.
love the sales process, as long as they have the right framework. And again, I mean, I don't want to keep calling it a sales process, but the discovery process, because
Mm-hmm.
once they have the right framework to have that conversation, it's uh, it's it's an analytical process, it's a problem solving process, and consultants are naturally inclined to having um, conversations of that nature.
You have to be curious. You have to have a curious mindset. You have to want to learn more. What are some examples of questions that you might ask to dig deeper, to get the client prospect to open up a little bit more and give you that information that will help you solve a problem?
So there are different, various types of questions you can ask, but I'll give you a couple of examples of questions that most people don't ask.
Okay.
Most, let's say novice consultants who are new in the business, or even novice people who are, selling a service. These are called consequence questions. I really want to understand what are the consequences of doing nothing. What if the prospect does nothing today, in order to kind of get out of the problem that they have that they're talking about, what happens, right? A lot of the times people don't think through, prospects don't think through consequences of the status quo, and what may happen if you do nothing. You see, so I'm very curious to understand, what those consequences are. What are the implications of the problems that they say they have? So, getting into that space of future pain
Mm-hmm.
really kind of helps shed light on, um, what could happen if that prospect just stays the way they are. Right. Another type of question I like to ask is, opportunity costs. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what would they miss out on if they again stay where they are without doing anything about it, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of, for example, a lot of entrepreneurs, if they kind of don't have the right frameworks, and they don't have the right systems and processes to run their businesses, they may miss out on selling their companies at a high valuation one day. They may miss out on attracting the right candidates who
Mm-hmm.
would be interested in working at their organizations and moving the organization forward. They may miss out on, A-grade investors, for example, right? There are so many opportunities, and they may miss out on, um, their dream of, creating more freedom in their lives, and spending more time with their families and stuff. So, there's a lot of opportunity costs to the status quo and kind of doing nothing. So you want to
Mm-hmm.
kind of, I like to ask those questions, because most people don't think them through, right? And of course,
Mm-hmm.
before all of this, you want to really understand, key performance indicators of the company. You want to understand the company a little bit, what they do, types of products, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, whatever is relevant to that conversation, but you want to really understand um, a lot more about the company, and then the symptoms of the problem, the root causes of the problem, and then what happens when they stay where they are and do nothing.
The status quo. It hits at prospect theory, understanding that we're going to be more concerned about what we lose than what we might potentially gain. And so if you stay in the status quo, what are you going to miss out on?
Yes, loss aversion, right? People are more incentivized to prevent losses than they are to, you know, um, have a gain that they've never had before. So people will do anything to kind of prevent losing what they already have. So yeah, that's a pretty big motivator, and you want to really push the client or push the prospect to think through these things, not in with the intention of fear mongering. I know these concepts can be even used as to kind of used for fear mongering, but you don't want to do that. You want to really ask these questions out of genuine concern and authentic concern for the client, so that they think through these things. And again, like in any of these conversations, you don't want to kind of hard sell anything, right? At any given time, at any point in time, you want to ask the right hard questions so that they think through the responses, but you never want to hard sell anything unless the client, wants to understand, what you sell. Then you can talk about, your solution and so on. But these conversations, like you said, are more to understand the prospect than to talk about what you do and
Yeah.
your solution.
What you mentioned there, authenticity is such an important part of that, where you can fake it till you make it in a couple situations, but you have to actually care. You have to actually want to help somebody, and that authenticity will either come through or be very transparent in that you're just trying to get the sale in those types of conversations if you ask the questions that way.
Yeah, when consultants generally, I've worked with many consultants, right? And most of them are very passionate about what they do. They start a consulting business because they know their domain so well. They're such experts at their own domain that they want to help. They want to kind of
Yeah.
spread their knowledge, use their expertise, help individuals, help organizations, and they're very sincere in that. And consultants care, right? Like, so these are the type of folks that really want their clients to do well, and they care for their clients, and they don't need any kind of special way of talking, or they don't need a script. They don't need specific questions that they need to kind of read off during a discovery conversation. As long as they understand what they're doing in that discovery conversation and what the goal is, going in and being authentic and just speaking like the way you speak, right? And yet asking the right questions. That's all is required. A lot of the times people think that you need to be an extrovert, you need to be a certain way to have those conversations and be good at selling. That's not true at all. Like you said, firstly you need to care, and secondly you need to have the right framework or an understanding of how to uncover problems and how to help clients or help prospects see the root causes and what's really going on and what the implications are if they do nothing, right? That's essentially what you want to be doing during a discovery call. And if you really care, it will come through. If you're really trying to kind of make a fast buck, that will come through as well.
Absolutely, for sure. Uh, One topic I wanted to ask you about, it's kind of all the rage right now, and that's the thought leadership on LinkedIn. I wish there was a better term for it, but that's what we're calling it, I guess. And you do really well with the content that you put out. What do you have a strategy behind that? Is there an approach that you think is appropriate for consultants and independent contractors in kind of the space we're talking about?
Thanks, by the way. I'm happy that you enjoyed the content. Look, this is a topic that I could talk about for hours, but because there's lots of ways you can think about content and so on. But if there's one thing that I could share with you that has helped me the most, it's the fact that I look at my meeting notes when I have conversations with prospects, and even with my clients. I speak with my clients almost on a daily basis, so I have a lot of meeting notes. my best ideas, my best thought leadership and content ideas come from there, because in those notes are tons of different problems that consultants and my clients face right now. And the way I see it is that if one person is facing a specific problem, then it's likely that others are as well. And of course, I don't reveal anything confidential in my writing, but I take the idea or the core of the problem that that individual is facing and share my thoughts on what meaningful next steps can be taken if the reader of that piece of content is facing a similar problem as well. So your meeting notes, and again, this is a unique thing for consultants. This is a face-to-face people business, so you're constantly talking to people, talking to your clients or prospects. So you have tons of opportunities to use what you're hearing and creating content around that, because guess what, you talk, if you can articulate those problems in your content, and like we talked about, if somebody reading it, if they kind of resonate with what you're saying, there's immediate trust and affinity built, and that's what we want to do, right? I can't tell you the number of times people have, they get on the phone with the prospect, they tell me things like, it feels like you're talking to me. Your content feels like you're talking to me. I had a prospect the other day tell me that, are you tapping my phone? Because what you're saying is exactly what I'm going through. So, and my secret is exactly this. I just look at my meeting notes and I study them carefully, and I take concepts from there and I talk about them. And of course, another advantage that I have is that I've run my consulting business for about 10 years. So I've sort of lived through many of these problems, and I've walked a mile in my clients' shoes. So I draw from my experience as well.
I think that's fantastic, because you can have people that are just trying to put content out there for the sake of doing it, or for the sake of getting vanity metrics and likes and whatnot. But pulling it from real world examples and real world problems that clients are actually facing on a daily basis. And you're right, that's how you connect with someone on the other side without ever having to interact with them, and you deliver value without having to have an engagement. I think that's a great process and methodology to go about that, for sure.
Yeah, like I said, if it's very current as well, right? If someone is going through a problem right now, it's very likely that some others are going through the same problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, right now there's so much talk about the economy, and discretionary spending is down, and so on and so forth. So when clients talk about a certain current topic which is affecting them, it's a great opportunity for me to take that topic and talk about it in my content, because it may be relevant to other people as well, because other people may be going through the exact same problem that is related to the economy, for example. I don't personally, now it's a little different because I'm working with consultants. It's a different model. But when I was, doing strategic planning, I didn't like to work personally with clients for more than 2 years, because I wasn't being useful, as useful as I was when I first started, because of the objectivity issue. But for those 2 years, I ensured that I communicated really well. I ensured that I made sure that the client knew exactly where the engagement was in terms of the status, what was going on. I ensured that I always on the lookout for opportunities for the client. Even though it wasn't part of my scope, if there was an opportunity that I read about somewhere or something from working with a third party, even I would pass it along. I would introduce resources to the client where I feel that they may need help with, like I may be a strategic partner or potential employee or even another vendor or so on. So building that relationship of course, apart from helping the client get their desired outcome, which is the technical outcome that you're hired for, apart from that, you got to ensure that you build that relationship, be reliable, over communicate, and just keep going above and beyond as much as you can. Those are soft ways of ensuring that the client keeps coming back to you and keeping you and retains you for at least beyond a 12-month term. Because again, I'll just finish off at this point. The profits, the real profits in consulting come at the back end. Initially, you may do lower profitable project engagements to get your foot in the door, like through a discovery engagement or discovery project. But as you become more and more valuable, the real profits in consulting come at the back end. And so you really want to do whatever you can to extend that client engagement to as much as possible, and also keeping in mind that you maintain your objectivity as much as possible, because that's what brings real value to the client at the end of the day.
Absolutely. I think that is a great point. I think it's a great message to end on. Faheem, thank you so much. This is a great conversation. Tons of value for anybody that is in the consulting space, even in sales. Everything is a people business. You have to build relationships. You have to be able to connect with people. I think we touched on so many great points there, and I really appreciate it. I hope everybody that gets to see this gets a ton of value from it.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, thanks a lot for having me. I'm so honored to be on the show and having a conversation with you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Be in touch soon.
All right. Cheers.